Reimagining Success, episode 260. You're listening to the Reimagining Success podcast, where we help you design a business and a life that allows you freedom from the 9 to 5. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, ex-corporate good girl, now a business mentor and coach, author, mum of 2, and I'm here to help you create more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment. Now let's get started with redefining success outside of the 9 to 5. Hello there and welcome back to our penultimate episode in the series on thinking like an entrepreneur. And if you only listen to one, you're in luck if you've landed on this one, because I think it's the most important one. So if you've been listening to all of them, that's amazing. But I hope you agree with me, and I hope you find insights today in the importance of this topic, because it is having a sense of ownership and personal individual accountability. And it might seem obvious that an entrepreneur that owns a business has that, in spades, but I see again and again that it isn't always the case, and certainly isn't always the case when you're working in a big corporate machine, right? So again, this topic is relevant and important whether you do have your own business or you are in an organization, a startup, a big corporate or whatever. So as ever, I want to start by thinking about, okay, what happens when you don't have this sense of ownership? I think the big one for me is lacking initiative. If you are a leader, you may be frustrated by your team and employees who just, don't take the initiative to come up with their own solution. They're sort of waiting around. Often it's, a new hire, which is fair enough because perhaps they haven't had the proper onboarding and they don't know what to do. Personally, for me, that was the most soul-destroying thing when I started a new job, just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, not having anything to do and not being able to take any initiative because I had no idea. So that's one scenario, obviously, when you're first starting out. But as you have more experience, hopefully you have the opportunity and sort of trust to be able to take the initiative. But you can be really passive, right? You just wait for someone to give you a task or responsibility, and then you're just waiting for instructions. You're not proactively seeking opportunities. To tie everything together that we've been talking about, that means that you're relying on other people to assign you jobs and things that might not fit with who you are, what your strengths and zone of genius are, and what would really be fulfilling for you. So I think taking that initiative is so important to start with, once you've done the work of understanding what's important to you, where you can do your best work, how you can do your best work, and so on. The second problem with not having that sense of ownership is that you start blaming and pointing your finger. Now, in an organization, you can point the finger at colleagues who aren't pulling their weight in the team, or, these new hires in my team, they're not, they're lazy bums there, or their parents who are, oh my goodness, leaving the office early to pick up their kids, or whatever I'm being a bit flippant about it, but, it's easier to blame other people, to blame the company, to blame the economy. Who else can we blame? When it's just you, it's harder to shift that responsibility. And yet we can still, unfortunately, shift responsibility onto external factors. So it could have been the pandemic, for example. Companies and businesses, entrepreneurs who kind of went, oh, it's the pandemic, I can't do anything, obviously didn't do as well as the ones who saw the opportunity to pivot and be adaptable and all the things we've been talking about. But I can blame technology, I suppose. I can blame, people just don't get it. They don't understand what I'm communicating. And it's the Instagram algorithm again that isn't, allowing people to see my amazing stuff. And it's so unfair that these other people are doing this, and it's, they're using bots and blah, blah, blah. So, that you can hear by my tone of voice, as tempting as it is to resort to that kind of blame and passing that kind of ownership and accountability to someone else, to something else. Ultimately, we're disempowering ourselves, right? And the consequence of that is, as ever, missed opportunities, missed growth opportunities. It's a lack of authenticity, I think, and it's, as I said, disempowering ourselves. It's basically giving other people, other things, power over ourselves, and telling ourselves a story, constructing a belief that we're not in control, we don't have autonomy, and actually, our success and failure is due to some other factor, which is really quite an infringement on our liberty, I suppose, and incredibly frustrating, and means we lack all that intrinsic motivation and so on that we've been talking about. So, failure to take ownership can really present you from learning from mistakes that you have maybe made, from seeing opportunities for growth, from seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and pivot and become stronger. I do have an example that I want to share here, actually, a positive example. So, one of my friends who was on the podcast, I won't say the name actually, although I don't know why, because it's a very positive story, I think, who we recently saw. He came to visit us down in Poole a while back. He was telling me how much he loves. So he quit his job and moved his whole family to a different country, and he's got an amazing setup now, and he's doing so well. So I'm so proud and impressed by him. But what I found interesting was he was saying all these things that he had not really thought about and not taken upon himself to even ask or suggest when he was working in an agency. He now, spent a whole night programming shortcuts into his computer because he knew that would save him so much time later. He never would have bothered to do that when he was working as an employee, partly because different people were using that equipment. And so if he had done it, then it wouldn't, other people would have been confused. It wouldn't have worked. But couldn't he have suggested that they all do that, come together, use the same shortcuts? But no, nobody took that initiative because it just wasn't, on their agenda. He now has a 3-screen setup. He's invested in equipment that makes him so much more efficient. He is quite geeky, as he said himself, obsessed with finding a better way to deliver for his clients. Isn't that the kind of initiative taking, proactive, problem solving ownership mindset that we want in our teams, for our employees, for our leaders, right? So isn't that interesting that he had to kind of quit his job and actually have full ownership of his work, have that very direct link between the work he's doing, the quality of the work delivering for his clients, and the money that's coming in to support himself and his family. How can we create that same sense of ownership and accountability in an organization would be my question. And again, for us working for ourselves, are we actually taking that responsibility? It makes you, so you really feel empowered, right? You hopefully are empowering yourself to identify and solve problems. You address issues. You don't just go, oh, this is a problem, and you just accept that it's there every day. If you don't know this already, you have the power to do whatever you damn want in your business, at least, right? So if you see something that's getting in the way every day, every week, let's try to find a solution. Having that ownership mindset, whether it's your own venture or not, if you're in a company, that's treated as if it were. If this were your own business or project, if it was just you, how would you handle it? If you were sort of end to end responsible for this, how would you take pride in every sort of aspect of that work and really, work as if you own it effectively, even if you don't? And then, of course, that personal accountability is vulnerability if you're taking accountability for your mistakes, but it's also reliability and demonstrating the fact that you're worthy of trust. You're so much more credible when you deliver. You stay true to your words. You're going to earn the respect of your team, your clients, your partners, and so on, right? And I think this is key in our personal relationships as well. So that ownership mindset, my goodness, it's so powerful. And I think we sometimes forget. So we've for so long blamed, the company, the economy, the whatever it is, our partner even, I don't know, our parents, our teachers for being a certain way. And we've been so restricted. And perhaps also during COVID, we had so many rules and things from the government and about if we were about to leave our houses and things that we sort of become used to handing over those kinds of important decisions. But the truth is we have so much more power. We can influence so many more things. We can certainly control more things and then also influence, if not control, so much more than we think. And that's hugely empowering, I think. So how can we cultivate that individual ownership? Well, again, whatever your situation, you can set yourself really clear and specific goals, and then you can align your own actions with those goals, right? So take ownership, right? Just own the whole process from end to end. This is my goal. This is why it's important to me. I am going to get the help I need for it. I'm going to invest. I'm going to take care of my own health and well-being. I'm going to make sure I have boundaries. Literally every single aspect of that, you're going to make sure that you can deliver on that goal for yourself, for your client, for your family, whatever it is. A slightly more painful one is that you need to own your mistakes. And I say this is more painful because I think a lot of us, and me included, are proud And let's face it, there's a bit of shame there when we have to admit that we've done something wrong, or that we didn't deliver on something, or it was, we've hurt someone. It's easy to get defensive and justify our actions and so on. But we really need to embrace those mistakes, and embrace is quite a positive word, but see them as learning opportunities and take responsibility for them. My daughter a while ago, so we've started with these, speaking of external motivation, we started with these STAR rewards that we give both of our kids. And we had a moment a while ago where I think it was my partner who started it, said, like, we're actually going to take stars away, which I question if we should do that, because I think once you've had the star, I think you should keep the star. But the scenario was, my daughter was being very difficult, and the agreement was, okay, look, I'm going to take a star away. And she actually went to the kitchen and got a star and handed it back. And she did it so well, she acknowledged in the way a 4-year-old can that she had done something wrong. She got it, she took responsibility. And I thought that was such a good thing to demonstrate, right? It's not about doing the wrong thing or whatever. It's not about that and being ashamed of that. It happens, but own up to it. Yes, it was me. And we had another scenario. We got nail polish on the sofa, and I was just trying to explain to her, at least trying to instill that sense that, it's okay, it happens, but, I don't want you lying about having done it, because obviously it was her who had done it. So these are the things we grapple with as children, but perhaps we still have that sense of, I hated getting in trouble. I mean, I've got so many stories from school. When I was in Form 2, Mrs. Cole made me stand on a chair for the rest of the class because I broke my ruler. I got a detention at secondary school because I hadn't, along with a few other classmates, we hadn't wrapped our exercise books in, and this was in art, in wrapping paper. That's what we used to do. I don't think they do that anymore, but, got a detention for that. So my goodness, have we been indoctrinated into, like, we really don't want to get in trouble, because it leads to detention. It leads to all sorts of embarrassment and shame, right? So we need to find a way to own up to that, take responsibility. And yes, it's painful at the time, but there are valuable lessons there that can contribute to that personal growth and maybe even business growth as well. And then, whether we're leaders in teams or we have people working for us, however explicitly as sort of associates or assistants or an actual team, fostering that environment of ownership. It's so easy to complain about micromanaging bosses and then become that micromanaging boss. So really think about having empathy for the other side and finding ways to empower your team members to take ownership of their roles and contributions, and flagging if there is an issue, trying to identify solutions, and not just waiting for you to tell them what to do. If you're only the sort of the command and control kind of boss, obviously that's going to hold them back from that. And I think we really underestimate. We know it for ourselves, because my goodness, do I hate when people tell me what to do and they get involved. I'm like, I'm going to do it amazingly. There's no one who can motivate me more than myself. And yet we don't think about the fact that we're having that impact on other people. So this sense of ownership, again, even if we own our own work, it's so easy to be, oh, my partner isn't allowing me this, or because of the kids I can't, or I don't have time for that, and the economy and school and blah, blah, blah. Fine, yes, total sympathy and empathy and all true. However, that's the reality. Talk about being adaptable, resilient, and we'll talk about resilience next week. If we want to achieve our goals, then we're going to need to go, it's so frustrating, and I'm going to now find a way to make it work. Maybe it'll be slower than I want it to be, but I am going to take full responsibility, accountability. Harsh reality, if my business is not working, then it is down to me, right? I need to pivot. Either I need to do more work and do the strategy, because maybe I'm not doing enough work and that's why it's not working, or I have been doing it and it's not working and therefore I need to pivot the strategy. But whichever scenario, it's on me to make those changes. And again, if you're in an organization with a team, as a leader, you need to be role modeling that ownership, showing that vulnerability of admitting your mistakes and so on, as well as, importantly, empowering and enabling other people. So giving them the trust to make decisions, and to make mistakes, and then as long as they learn from them, right? So that is a sense of ownership and accountability. We've got the final one in our series of thinking. I was going to say thriving like an entrepreneur, but that's true too. Thinking like an entrepreneur, thriving like an entrepreneur. And we're talking resilience next week. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. If you're looking to get unstuck and break through to your next level of success, then your first step is this. Download the free business assessment to identify the gaps that are preventing your growth so that you can take actionable steps towards building a more successful and sustainable business. You can download the scorecard at onestepoutside.com/scorecard. That's onestepoutside.com/scorecard.